This week, I coded tic-tac-toe and I taught my computer how to play. Now it can't be defeated. To confirm my suspicions, I created a weak player that just randomly selected a spot on the board. I played it against one another and against the smart AI player. Then I played the smart AIs against one another. And here are the results. Surely enough, the smart player never loses. So in tic-tac-toe, you have a board of 9 squares and 2 players represented by a cross or a knot. And by playing back and forth, you generate a bunch of different states of the game, as shown here. Now, how many total possibilities are there for number of states? Well, we have 3 different options for each square, either a cross, a knot, or a blank. And we have 9 squares. And 3 to the 9th power is approximately 20,000. So that means 20,000 at most states of tic-tac-toe. However, this is actually an overestimate because many of those are unreachable by realistic playing between 2 players. From that calculation, we now know that each game of tic-tac-toe has only a finite number of states, which means that we can easily use the Minimax algorithm to teach our computer how to become undefeatable. Minimax is a decision-making algorithm built off of a maximizer and minimizer concept. Basically, you're trying to maximize your win while your opponent is trying to minimize their loss. Now, in a game of tic-tac-toe, we can step through each state and see how Minimax might help us win and become victorious. In Minimax, we are trying to find the best move to make. We can determine this by trying out all the moves and figuring out which one is the most optimal through something called a utility function, which is basically a measurement of how valuable the final result in that tree is. Now let's take a look at an example using a partially completed game of tic-tac-toe. So in this current board, it's X's turn. And obviously the goal is to maximize X since we want to win. So the first step is to put down an X in every single possible potential move. You'll notice that in the middle, we actually won the game because we formed 3 in a row. Now let's talk about this utility function for a little bit. Since we want to win, we want our utility to be positive since this is a positive value to us. Now, in addition, I have this factor of 3 because I want to win in as little steps as possible. So how I got this number is I took the remaining squares on the board and added 1, so that if you did win, you still ended up with a positive value and not 0. And then I multiplied it by either +1 or -1, depending on who the winner was. So for example, if O had actually won in this situation with 2 squares left, then I would have done -1 times 2 + 1, 3, which is -3. So moving on from there, we want to map out all of the possible scenarios of gameplay. So continuing this tree, we have this layer and then this layer until the board is filled or until somebody has won. Now let's add the utility function for all of these. Since O won on the left, we're going to do -1 times 1 + 1, since there's 1 square left, which gives us -2. In the second one, nobody wins and it's a draw, so the value is just 0. Now on the right, the first one, we win again. But in this case, we don't have any empty squares. So we're just going to multiply 1 by 1. And then on the far right, it's a draw again, so we have a value of 0. Now that we have these utility values, we can propagate them back up to find the most optimal path to take. So at the very bottom level, we have a maximizer function because it's X's turn. There's actually no decision to be made in the bottom row because there's only one option, one path to take. In the second row, it's O's turn, and we assume that O will be taking their most optimal path, which means that we want to minimize the value that O has. And in this case, on the left-hand side, it's between -2 and 0. And since -2 is less than 0, the left gets assigned a utility value of -2. The middle is still 3 because there's no additional options after that. And on the far right, we're choosing between 1 and 0. And since 0 is less than 1, the far right has a utility of 0. In the next stage, it's back to x's turn, and we want to maximize x. Between -2, 3, and 0, obviously 3 is a maximum, so we would choose that middle path. So now we know what the most optimal solution is in order to win in the least number of steps possible. Alright, let's talk about my implementation of tic-tac-toe. So I have a class called tic-tac-toe, and in this class I'm initializing it with a board and a current winner, which is set to none. In make board, all I'm doing is returning a board of length 9 with spaces. That's it. In print board, I'm going through the 3 rows and I'm just printing those 3 rows. This is for visual purposes only. And then same thing with print board nums, except what that does is it assigns a value 0 through 8 to every single space on the board so that the user can look at it and determine which number corresponds to the space that they want to go. In make move, I'm actually making a move on this board. So I'm taking in a square representing which space the user wants to go. This should be a number between 0 and 8. And a letter, which is X or O, depending on what the player's letter representation is. And I'm going to first check to see if the space is actually empty. And if it is, I'm going to assign the letter to that square. And then I'm going to check to see if it's the winner. If it is, I'm going to set current winner to the current player. Now, in this winner function, I'm checking to see if the move that I just made me a winner or not. So, taking in the square and the letter, first I'm getting the row in the board. And if every single letter in that row is the same letter, then I'm going to return true. Same thing with the column. I'm going to check all the letters in the column and return true if that's true. Now, because we're checking from a certain square, the diagonals only apply if it's along the diagonal. And it just so happens that the diagonal squares are even, which is why I check to see if the square is even here. And then if they are, then I'm going to take diagonal 1, which is 0, 4, and 8 on the board, and then diagonal 2, which is 2, 4, and 6 on the board. And I'm just going to do the same thing. I'm going to check to see if they're all the same letter. If they are, then I return true. Otherwise, I return false. And then my function empty squares just tells me if there are any more empty squares on the board. Num empty squares counts the number of empty squares on the board. And then available moves actually gets the numerical value of the spaces that are still empty. So in order to create interchangeable players, I actually created a superclass called player and then created 3 types of players under that. There's human player, random computer player, and smart computer player. So in human computer player, every single time you get a move, it takes in human input and turns that into an integer and returns that value. The random computer player, on the other hand, sees what's available on the board and randomly chooses one of those squares. The smart computer player, if it's an empty game, meaning the start of a game, it just randomly chooses somewhere to go. Otherwise, it uses the Minimax algorithm in order to generate the smartest possible choice at that moment. Alright, so let's talk about the Minimax function. So I'm passing in a state, which represents the current state of the game, and a player, which represents the player that's going on this next turn. Max player, I'm going to set to my own letter because I always want to maximize for myself. And other player, it's just a representation of the letter of the other player. So first we want to check whether or not the previous move was a winner. And if so, we want to return the utility of it. So here I'm checking if the current winner is equal to the other player, which is the previous player. And if it is, I'm going to return the position none. That's something that it'll change when you pass this back through the function using recursion. But right now we don't have to worry about that. And the score is equal to the utility function, which is positive or negative, depending on whether it's valuable to you or not. And then the number of empty squares plus 1. Otherwise, if there are no more squares left, then we also want to return a score of 0. Now, if the player is equal to the max player, so the current player that's going, if it's equal to max player, then we're going to set best score to negative infinity so that we can beat it. Or if it's not the max player, then we want to set the best score to infinity so that we can minimize that. Now, for every single possible move in the next moves, I'm going to first try to make a move in whatever that move is. And then I'm going to see what score it is by calling self.minimax. And what this is going to do is it's going to go through every single combination and propagate the best value depending on whether we're minimizing or maximizing at that stage. And then after each call, we are actually going to remove that step that we just did. So in order to undo, I'm making the board at that move space again, so empty. And then I'm setting the current winner to none in case there was a winner. And then whatever position that was returned, I'm going to set it to the possible move that we're performing because all the other moves later on don't matter. You're just trying to find the next move. And here, if the player is the max player and our simulation score beat the best score, then we're going to reset the best to that simulation. Otherwise, if we're not the max player, if we're minimizing in this case, and our score ended up being less than our best score, then our best is now equal to this new score. And so at the very end, we're going to return best. And so what this is doing is it's going through each layer of the tree, hitting the bottom, then working its way back up and comparing all of whatever branch or node values until you get the minimum or maximum at each stage. So the last step of the code is to put all of these different components together and actually play a game. So I've defined a function here, play, which takes in a game, an X player and an O player, which is one of the player objects that we just coded, and print game, true or false, depending on whether or not we want the visuals to be printed, in terminal or something. I'm not going to explain the print game parts because that's pretty explanatory. If print game is true, then you're just going to print whatever at each stage. So X always goes first. So I'm setting letter equal to X first. Now, while the game still has empty squares, if the letter is O, then you want to get the O player's next move, which is what I'm calling here. Otherwise, you want to get the X player's next move. Now we're going to make a move. And this is an if statement because make move returns whether or not it was like a valid move. So if it is a valid move, then you're going to make that move and print some stuff if you're printing the game. And then check to see if there's a current winner. So if there is a current winner, then you might print X wins, and then you're going to return the letter. I returned the letter, you don't have to, but I did just because I wanted to see how many times so-and-so won. And then at the very end of the while loop, you're going to set the letter equal to the next letter. So it just flips between O and X. And then at the very end, if it's a tie, you can print it's a tie. And that's pretty much it. So then now in order to actually play this game, you can set X player equal to whatever type of player you want, O player equal to whatever player you want. So if you want to be both, you could set both of them to human player. If you want the computers to play against each other, you can set both of them to computer players, and so on. I'm going to create a new instance of this tic-tac-toe game, and then I'm just going to call play on that tic-tac-toe game using the X player and the O player, and I'm going to set print game to true because I want to actually see what's happening. And this is the result I get. Thanks for watching.